everybody, Mike Beer here. Stakes action for the 3-year-olds at the Oaklawn meet on Saturday. Race number 9 is the Poinsettia Stakes for 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th around that main track for a $150,000 purse. Last chance for some of these horses to pick up a little bit more stakes hardware in some cases before the year ends and they have to go in against older horses. Field of 7, let's take a look at the field right now. We have 2 horses in here who feel like they're just going to take the bulk of the money. Your morning line favorite is number 4, Super Stock. He's already actually a Grade 1 winner this year. He took the Arkansas Derby the last time he ran at this over this Oaklawn Park main track. A big upset that day at 12-1 odds for trainer Steve Asmussen. Since then, his form has held up very well. A couple of more stakes wins. He took the Ellis Park Derby with an identical 92 Beyer speed figure back in August. He just more recently defeated a very weak field at Zia Park as a very heavy favorite. He's your morning line favorite. He's the horse to beat in here. Flash of Mischief is the number 3. He's 5-2 on the morning line. Very consistent horse. He has good early speed. Can go basically any distance of ground. His overall form is just really, really good. He shows up and he runs every time. Coming off of a stakes win of his own at Delta Downs last time in the Delta Mile with a 90 Beyer speed figure, 2 starts back. In the Oklahoma Derby, he ran really, really well at 20-1 and finished second ahead of Super Stock that day. This horse certainly has the credentials to be really, really tough in this race. Let's take a look at the time form US pace projector because it sort of feels like that could be the advantage that Flash of Mischief, the number 3, has in this race. They do have him out on the early lead in this race. The horse that they have up there with him, the number 5, Myopic, is a very lightly raced horse who does have some speed. The only career win so far for Myopic came back in June at Indiana. He broke his maiden right on the front end with an 85 Beyer. He's 0-for-3 since then, but his races are okay. He's going to stretch back out around 2 turns in here for a trainer who wins a lot of races. So we'll see if Myopic can take the step forward, and we'll see if he can keep the pressure on Flash of Mischief early, because that could be key to the running of this race. Let's start down on the rail. Number 1 is Last Samurai for Dallas Stewart, a horse who has paired up career top 92 Beyer speed figures in his 2 most recent starts. They recently switched him back over from turf. They went long with him in his last 2 dirt races. The Grade 3 Greenwood Cup, going a mile and a half, where he just missed by a neck at 23-1 odds. And then he came back going a mile and a quarter in an allowance race last time and settled for 3rd. But again, he's run the 2 fastest races of his life in his 2 most recent starts. He's going to be cutting back in here, and he's going to need some pace to run at. We'll see if he gets it earlier in the year. He was no match for Super Stock in the Arkansas Derby. Number 2 is Defeater, very lightly raced 3-year-old for trainer Tom Amos, a horse who I thought looked really good in the first 2 starts of his career. He won first time out sprinting. They stretched him right out for his second start. Just broke very awkwardly in that Fairgrounds allowance race going a mile and a 16th. Came around widest, still with a lot of work to do to the top of the stretch in that race, and then put in a really good finish, gaining ground all the way. Couldn't quite get up, settled for second, but an 87 Beyer speed figure as a February 3-year-old. That was not a bad performance at all. And then he missed time after that. He came back with another good performance, I thought, at Saratoga, going 7 furlongs behind Speaker's Corner. 2 starts back, he was in that Oklahoma Derby with Flash of Mischief and Super Stock. I think if you go back and watch that race, you'll sort of realize that this horse has some improving to do. He didn't really have much of an excuse in there. He was in position to be competitive, and he wasn't really good enough that day. But, man, it was only the 4th start of his career, second off the layoff. He has bounced back out of that race with a dominant allowance win around a 1-turn mile at Churchill most recently with an 87 Beyer. He looked good winning that day. It's all about whether this is the right time for him to take a step forward in here. I suppose you could question distance for him as well. He does have to prove that he really wants a distance of ground, and that might be a problem for him down the line, but we'll see. I'd be willing to give him another chance. I would not take the 3-1 that the morning line has him pegged at. Flash of Mischief, major player in the race. There's really nothing to knock about his overall form. He shows up and he runs every single time. His most recent start at Delta was a clear-cut victory while sitting right up on the pace and then taking over early. I wanted to go back 3 starts to the St. Louis Derby. This is another stakes win for this horse. It's not, a major race. Obviously, he's not beating a great field here, but this is, sort of typical of what you're going to get a Flash of Mischief. They got him involved early, sitting right up close to the pace. He went for it, got himself locked into a battle this stretch, and he prevailed at the end. Just a typical performance for this horse, a nice performance for him. I thought he ran great in his next start in the Oklahoma Derby, settling for second that day. But just really game, fighting it out to the finish and holding off Superstock for second at the end. Major player in here. I have no knocks on him. Superstock, I suppose, is the horse to beat if he runs back to his Arkansas Derby. Obviously, he's going to be tough in this race. He got a perfect trip when he won that day. But it was still a good performance for him. And again, I think his form has held up pretty well since that race. His Oklahoma Derby was good. He didn't break great. He had the rail and that Oklahoma Derby. He didn't break great. He wound up maybe a little bit further back off the pace than they wanted him to be. And he finished gamely in there. He just couldn't get, there was no match for Warrant, the winner at the end. He couldn't get by Flash of Mischief for second. But he ran fine that day. I have no problem with that performance. His most recent start is this one that we're looking at right now. It's the Zia Park Derby. He's 5 cents on the dollar against only 3 other horses. It's basically a race he couldn't possibly lose. I read Ortiz, who was riding that day, still elected to let another horse take the lead and just sat off of him. They came forward around the second turn. You saw he took over at the top of the stretch. He's basically, I don't want to say all in, but he's working pretty hard and he's not getting away from this field. He's just sort of doing what he has to do to get the job done. It's not a thing of beauty. It's not the kind of race where you're going to look at him, stepping up into a tougher race as the favorite and say, boy, I can't wait to bet this horse. But I think he's obviously better than that Zia Park Derby might make him look. And he's the horse to beat. I have no knocks on Superstock. Myopic is the number 5, and we touched on him a little bit in the open. He's going to probably show speed in here, and he's going to have to really improve. He was no match for Defeater last time when they cut him back to a 1-turn mile. I thought his prior 3 starts were all pretty good. They were all 2-turn route races where they got him involved early, and maybe that's just what this horse prefers. Maybe just prefers a little bit longer distance and around 2 turns. And if that's the case, maybe he'll take a step forward, but he's going to have to. It's going to have to be a pretty big one if he's going to beat this field. Same can be said for the number 6, Simovich. He's probably going to be higher than the 8-1 morning line, so if you like him, he's a horse who has won 2 of his last 3 starts, the last 2 of those for trainer Mike Maker. If you think he's worth it at a big price, you could take a shot with him, but he's way too slow to win this race right now. And the number 7 is Ram, and I don't think Ram's impossible. He's very consistent. He's obviously no superstar. They had to finally drop him in for 50 to get the maiden win over this track back in April, and that was a wet track to boot, but he ran well that day and got the job done. Then he improved and won again in his next start at Churchill Downs. He came out of that. They tried the Preakness with him. Why not try the Preakness? He had run the 2 best races of his life. It wasn't a very good race this year, the Preakness, and they tried it, and he was nowhere. But since then, his form has actually been really good. He's been either second or third in each of his last 5 or 6 starts, just right there. He hasn't gotten the job done in any of them, but he's improved his figures. He's been right there at the end. 3 starts back in the Perryville. He just missed at Keeneland going 7. That was a race that had a really fast pace for him, and he rallied from last and just came up short, but he ran well anyway. I don't love him in here, but he's going to be a big price, and I don't think he's impossible either. He's another horse. I think you could make the argument that shorter's a little bit better for him. But Dwayne Lucas trains. He likes to take shots in races like this, and I don't see why Ram doesn't necessarily deserve the shot. I mean, it's not like he'd be a huge upset if he won this race. I'm not way against the 2 favorites in here. I suspect both Flash of Mischief and Superstock are going to be tough. I just wanted to give Defeater one more chance in here. That, again, with the caveat that I would never take 3-1 on him. You'd have to drift way up to at least twice that price if I was going to bet him. I just want to give him one more chance and see if he can handle this distance of ground. I know his Oklahoma Derby wasn't good, but I liked his most recent start. I thought he bounced back out of it very well, and I like everything else that this horse has done in his career. I think there's a lot of upside here for Tom Amoss. So I'll try him. I went 2, 3, 4, and 7 in the Poinsettia Stakes at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. It's race number 9. Good luck.